Well, here we go.
Indeed.
We are diving into a slightly new format of Cool Conversations, a bi-weekly. And I'm joined today by, well, I say he's an imposter, he's not, he's Dave Cool.
Yeah.
You don't get one call for your money this week, you get two calls for your money. And Dave, aka Injured Dave, you've got your own podcast, Eat Your Greens, which is a fantastic reservoir of knowledge. You've got some fantastic people on there. I thought your Mr. Ecotricity,
Dale Vince.
Dale Vince, I thought was absolutely fantastic. Now Dave is a runner, ex-radio host, all-round good guy, and he's come on and we'll be hosting this bi-weekly. We're going to keep the guests running, so don't be worried that you're not going to get the input from the amazing guests that we've had. But we're going to try and mix it up a little bit, talk about some popular topics, audience questions. We've got some, I think, that's come in.
Yeah, we've got lots actually
Over the last little while, and one or two little surprises. So we're just going to go with it. We're going to riff on it this afternoon, and I hope you dig it, basically. But let us know. Let us know what works and what doesn't work. So Dave, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much.
So are you injured right now?
I'm not actually. I'd go as far as saying I'm. I don't want to tempt fate, but I'd go as far as saying I'm fully recovered.
I have to lay claim. I came up with the Injured Dave, and it comes from because we were out in the Alps, or Family Cool were out in the Alps, and you went out on a really aspirational 5-6 week road trip to get your running fitness up. Day 2, you turned your ankle. I feel for you, man.
Yeah, and day 5 I was back in the UK.
Yeah, and the name Injured Dave has stuck, certainly in our household here.
Yeah, and elsewhere as well. So feel much better, and increasing the running again, and just trying to take it super gentle, but also setting goals for autumn and the winter.
All right, it's great to have you here, and here is home today. A number of reasons. My beautiful daughter Saffron, we had to test her for COVID. And part of that, I can't go back to the Barn Theatre for a couple of weeks, shielding and various other things. So we're set up here in the cool house, and acoustics, well, we'll see. Let's see what the listeners and viewers think, but it's good to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, we probably need to do something about the echo at some point.
Well, I'm not sure what Mrs. Cool's going to say about that. We start putting up the egg boxes. She might go slightly nuts over that. But we'll see. We'll grow into the space. We'll grow into the show. And I think feedback from our lovely audience will perhaps govern where we go. Or where we don't go.
Yeah, absolutely. So how have you been? I guess, you've asked me, but...
I'm good. I'm just back from a few days up in the Orkney Islands, climbing again, Old Man of Hoy. Injury free. Well, I've got a slight tweaked hamstring, which has been a bit of an ongoing niggle. But yeah, I'm good. Lockdown is what it is. Certainly in the UK, because I know we've got listeners in places like India, the US, but certainly in the UK we've gone up to level 4, I think, on the COVID scale. So we've got some new restrictions in place. But yeah, I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling positive about certainly where I am, and I'm feeling positive where the show is, to be honest. I'm really excited about today. And I've got to thank you for this. This was your idea for this format, and it's going to be... I'm looking forward to see where we take it.
Yeah, I've been badgering you for months now, literally. Just going, Kenton, I've got this idea.
Well, you badgered me to get me on your show.
Yeah, I did.
So that was Eat Your Greens. Do you have numbers on your one?
Yeah, I think you were episode 7 or 8.
There we go.
You're a hard man to pin down.
Well, it's your perseverance that got me in the end. You just did not give up, and I got a lot of respect for that. And I suppose knowing what we're going to dive into as our sort of topic today, that perseverance, I think, is something which the newer generation perhaps don't always comprehend how important it is. Certainly if you overcome an injury, or if you're trying to get fit for something, or you're running long distances, or if you're climbing or on an expedition, or trying to get a business up and running, you've got to be dedicated, and your perseverance needs to be there. So yeah, your perseverance, like you kept knocking on the door, and I finally like, oh God, who is this guy? And then we had a chat, and I looked at your website, and I thought, yeah, actually, this guy's doing some good stuff. And we had a beautiful chat.
Yeah, we did.
Towards the start of lockdown, I think.
Yeah, I think it literally first couple of weeks of lockdown.
God, that's like 6 months ago.
Yeah, and at
God,
that
where's
point,
the time gone?
yeah, none of us had any idea what the next 6 months were going to be like, and obviously we are where we are now. But yeah, I think, to your point about perseverance, now is a reminder to us all that things aren't easy, and you've got to dig deep, haven't you? You've got to just keep knocking on the proverbial door in hopes that someone's going to answer it. And just for the purposes of the tape, I didn't actually knock on your door.
We're not doing COVID, not during lockdown, the strict lockdown that we had. No, it was. Yeah, you. I think you were texting me, emailing me. And I've got a lot of respect for that. And people that know me know that I work best under pressure. Give me a deadline, and I'll put it out the bag. Give me a non-specific, hey, would you like to be on a podcast, or can you get this work done? When I wrote my book, I was given an open-ended deadline, and it didn't work. And then suddenly my editor, Kenton, we need a manuscript. We need it by next month. Oh God, better work on this.
What is it about your character then that makes you work like that? Because that, for me, complete opposite. Like the idea of being lastminute.com.
I am Mr. Lastminute.com. In fact, one of my passwords is last minute. It was one of the manufacturers that I collaborate with. They sent me up a pro deal, and they set up my password, and my password is last minute, because I'll be going on an expedition and literally be phoned the day before begging for not even 24-hour delivery, but by the end of the day, and Martin at Line Equipment set me up, and last minute, and we laughed.
Yeah.
We laughed. In fact, there's a sign just behind it there that said, organised, dangerous. And if I was organised, I'd possibly be dangerous. I think it's just in my makeup. I don't like being pinned down. I don't like having a full diary. It gives me shivers. So I've learned to adapt and cope with last minute nature.
Well, look, and it works. And I think particularly at the moment, having the flexibility to respond to what's coming in as well. I know from the conversations we've had, COVID, the lockdown, and everything that's associated with it, it's had an impact on us all, hasn't it? And the need to be flexible. Your work has changed massively from, in person to, what time were you up this morning?
Oh yeah, I had a Zoom event conference with Australia, so I was online, laptop fired up, camera rolling at 6:10.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. It was all about optimism, and I think we'll probably talk about it later on today. It left me energised this morning, but yeah, it's interesting times, which I think brings us quite nicely onto the topic that we were thinking about talking about. Fastest known times.
Yeah, FKTs.
FKTs. Which for those of you who don't know, tongue quite twisted. FKTs. It's essentially an unofficial record, isn't it? It's not ratified as such by, say, the Guinness Book of Records, and it relates very much to mountain running, to a certain extent mountain climbing, on some of them, things like Mont Blanc or the Matterhorn, but certainly some of the races, long distance races, which perhaps don't have the organisation behind them, like the London Marathon or the Boston Marathon or things like that, and they have a unofficial record, which people to a certain extent do chase.
Yeah, literally by the looks of it, you choose where you want to go, and you register that with fastestknowntime.com. I think that's the website address.
Yeah, well, I was looking at it this morning.
Yeah.
I didn't realise you had to register with it. I thought it was a little bit more loose than
So
that.
I think to make it official, what you have to do is register your intent. So you say, I'm going to lay down a fastest known time or make an FKT attempt on Mont Blanc, for example, on this date, and I'm going to be supported or unsupported. And then you do it on that day, you submit your GPX file and any other kind of proof that you did it, and if the community agrees that you did it, you get the FKT if you're the fastest known time to have done that. Of course, I'm going to talk about some of the incredible FKTs that have been accomplished over the summer.
It's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, we started looking and we just kept on looking, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's global.
Yeah.
That's the really impressive thing about it. And being very transparent, you came up with a topic. Because clearly it's something which because you are way more into your running than I am. I lollop around the field and do 10k a day, but I know from our mutual friend Guy, I think you lollop more than a little bit faster than me, and you lollop or run longer distances. So I put you very much more in an ultra runner category than I am. I've never done an ultra and you came up with a topic, and it is really interesting because it has exploded.
Yeah, absolutely.
This summer, records, the FKTs, they've tumbled. Not just here in the UK, but globally. I was looking, there's some in India that have been set this year. 5 or 6 I saw in India. The States, in both North America, Canada and the US, dozens and dozens and dozens of new times.
Yeah, and I think it's, in no small part because all of those big races, whether it's UTMB, Leadville, Hard Rock, in the States, they've all been cancelled, understandably, because of COVID. And you've got all of these athletes going, well, what am I going to do? Match fit, I'm trained, I'm ready to do something, and there's nothing organised. So I'm going to be creative and I'm going to come up with something. And they start picking off some of these incredible trails, mountains, like you mentioned, and they go out and they're just smashing these times. But what I love about it is, it's a really good example of how creative people can be when things change. These are athletes, and not, it's everyday people like you and me as well, who are doing these things. There was an FKT set fairly locally to us by someone who'd never done an FKT before. They found a route, no one had ever done it before, they registered it and they hold the FKT.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Who was that? Do we know who that was?
I can't remember, I don't know his actual name, but his Instagram name, which is just a sign of life now, isn't it, is the Morning Coffee Run, I think. And he did a local one in Oxford. Found the route, and
wow.
You can, so technically, I think, you could get an FKT for running around your field, I think, but I'm not sure how well that would be received if everybody started registering.
To run around my field.
Yeah, or indeed any field. But, if you found a route, and I think it can be fairly short distances, where you go, I'm going to try and get from A to B quicker than anybody else. It doesn't have to be 100 miles.
No, so certainly from my research, I was looking at this morning, and it's a very informative website, and I'm pretty sure it is fastestknowntimes.com. And I was looking at some of the athletes, so they've got an athlete page and the number of fastest known times that they hold. And I was looking at some of these, and some of them are sub-hour. Some of the runs are half an hour long, for instance. So I don't think it's necessarily something which is only connected with running ultras or middle distance. It can be relatively short distances. And yeah, I found it quite inspiring because they've got a global map on their website, and you can zoom into your local area or zoom into some aspirational area, and you can click onto the little dots, and it tells you a little bit of a history about it, who currently holds it, if anybody. And I did notice that some of them are blank. And for me, it was a really interesting. I probably spent a couple of hours on their website and going and seeing some names I recognised, and then going to various parts around the world. I mean, they're in Africa, they're in offshore islands here and there, and it really got me thinking about how something like COVID has generated this lockdown, yet the enthusiasm for sport or adventure or whatever it may be has managed to cut through, and people still have that lovely enthusiasm to go out and test themselves.
Yeah.
A question that I had, and it wasn't obvious on the website, and perhaps you can put a little bit light into it. If you set, so the UTMB, the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, which is arguably, would you say arguably the most famous ultra marathon?
Yeah,
well, one of them, or perhaps
top three.
Yeah, perhaps up there with Leadville or
Hard Rock.
I think Badwater or something like that in the States. But it's one of the most famous ultras out there, and it runs round Mont Blanc. So it basically starts and finishes in Chamonix, goes through to Italy, cuts into Switzerland, and then ultimately 180 kilometres later, and I think the winning time is sub 30 hours.
Yes, it's getting close to 20 hours.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's fast.
Yeah.
It's properly fast. 20, 30 hours later, you arrive back at your start point. I presume utterly exhausted, because Mont Blanc, as you would imagine, there's an obscene amount of ascent and descent. The mind boggles. But the question that I was curious about was, can you set a fastest known time during an organised race, or does it have to be outside of a race? And I didn't know. I mean, I would like to think that both count.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I don't know, but I would have thought not, but I don't know. Because I think if you're entering an organised race, you win the race. If you got the FKT during the race, that is the equivalent of winning. But I don't know. I mean, a good example of that would be the Pennine Way and the Spine race in the UK, where Damien Hall now has the FKT, but John Kelly got it the week before Damien took it. It had been held by the same guy for...
so since the mid-80s?
Yeah,
doing some research
30
into
plus
that.
years.
Yeah, it's outrageous that record's been held for so long, and then it gets broken twice in the space of literally 10 days or so.
Yeah, but John won the Spine race at the beginning of this year, which follows almost exactly the same 268 miles, I think it is. But I think he did his FKT in a quicker time than he did the race, which is why he's got the FKT. I don't know if he'd done it during the race, whether or not he would have got an FKT or simply just won the race. But it's a really good question. What I love is the fact that, you've got these names and these people that, if you're in running and mountaineering communities, you'll recognise. But you've also got people who, and you kind of just touched on it a minute ago, where, remember the height of lockdown where, we were allowed out once a day, and you saw more people running, cycling, walking than ever before, and there was this real sense of, well, I get to go out once a day, I'm going to take advantage of that, I'm going to do some exercise. And I think you're seeing more and more people think about what might be possible that they perhaps didn't originally think was possible as a result of getting fitter during lockdown, which is, it's a small thing, but it's an important thing and a good thing, I think, that's come out of the pretty rubbish 6 months we've had.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it's been pretty dark times for a lot of people, and gyms shut down, as we know, so unless you had a runner or an ergo or something at home, the only type of exercise for many of us was to get outside, and even then not everybody had that privilege. Certainly in the UK, children's parks were shut, so it became hard, but without a shadow of a doubt, you saw more people out on the roads bicycling, you saw more people out running the trails or the footpaths, and that is something that it's got to be celebrated
Yeah.
in a particularly dark time. It's interesting. I wrote some notes on Pennine Way. Yeah, you are. It's 268 miles. It's certainly the UK's oldest and arguably toughest national trail, and it's over 37,000 feet of ascent.
What's Everest?
Yeah, that's 29,300 or something feet, 8,850 meters. So nearly 10,000 feet, another 3,000 meters worth of climbing, more than Everest from sea level. Quite spectacular. And I don't actually have the times here, but there's 60 odd hours or so, aren't they?
Yeah, so Damien did it in 61 hours, 35 minutes, 15 seconds, which was, I think, don't quote me on this, maybe 3 hours quicker than John Kelly did it the week before. And then John, who I actually spoke to recently, so he did that, I think it was in July. Then Damien went faster, but John had been preparing for something that he called the Grand Round.
I saw that.
Yeah, which this just blows my mind. So the Grand Round links all three of the UK's big fell running rounds. So you've got the Paddy Buckley Round in Wales, the Bob Graham in the Lake District, and the Charlie Ramsey Round in Scotland. So those individually, those rounds are
hugely aspirational.
Yeah, like you would, if you could do one of them once in your lifetime, that's an incredible achievement. He did them one after the other. The only difference is he cycled between them. So 400 plus miles, 400 plus miles cycling, and I think it was like 180 miles of actual running up and down mountains.
The Bob Graham, that's the one that I'm most familiar with. I think I might say about 72 miles.
Yeah.
And I forget how much ascent there is. And the idea is to try to do it within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which for most people, that would be the focus of the year. Well, or possibly of your running career.
Yep,
and then you've got John Kelly, who links all three of those and cycles between them. Yeah. It's just nuts.
And he did the first two rounds, the Paddy and then the Bob, in under 24 hours as well.
Wow.
As well as cycling between the two. And it was only, it was an injury that stopped him doing the 24 hours when he got to Scotland, but he still did it. So it was under 6 days.
But when we mentioned at the start, it is, I think, quite incredible that so many of these records, fastest known times, have been smashed this year. And I just got visions of if you could bottle that amount of pent-up energy that some of these guys and girls have had. God, it'd be amazing. But the Land's End John O'Groats records been broken this year by both female and male records are broken. First time anybody, well, there is a bit of controversy over it, but the first time anybody's run under 10 days for the Land's End John O'Groats. Yeah. There was a claim one back in, I think, 2002.
It's widely rubbish now.
It's widely thought that it wasn't quite true. And the other thing with Damon Hall, who you mentioned, the guy that broke the Pennine Way, is that it was completely carbon negative.
Yeah.
So it was fueled on no animal products at all and no plastic waste, which sat here in the comfort of my own home sounds quite simple, but in reality, you have to be pretty damn organised to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it certainly makes crewing and the facilitation of the whole thing that much harder. So yeah, I think people, as you said, people have been really creative. You know, some of the outdoor enthusiasts, runners, been really clever, and I'm kind of hoping that some of this enthusiasm rubs off a bit on the climbing world as well. I've got to mention before we move on, I was looking at this one in New Delhi. I don't know if you come across this one, but I was the New Delhi Ring Road. I don't know if you've been to Delhi. I've been to Delhi a lot, and I think there's 3 ring roads now in Delhi, because as Delhi gets bigger and bigger and bigger, they keep building more and more ring roads. And I think it's the inner ring road is 55 kilometres, and the record was done earlier this year. I think it's in August this year, and India, they've been really struggling with COVID. So it's a 50-kilometre run that this individual did, 5 hours 51 minutes, round the ring road of New Delhi. And I cannot, the heat, the pollution, the traffic, but I think that just shows how enthusiastic some people have been during this period. You know, to set a fastest known time, 50 kilometres on the Delhi ring road, the mind boggles.
I think the other thing is it's a number of people that we've kind of just been looking at. They haven't just done one FKT attempt this year; they've done a number of them. Sabrina, and I hope I'm saying her surname right, Virgie. So she's now got the FKT for the Pennine Way. She did that.
I didn't know that's been broken by both female and male as well.
Yeah, so she has the female FKT, and she did that earlier this month, and provisional time of 3 days, 2 hours, 28 minutes. But she also earlier this year.
I mean, we should just reiterate that's 268 miles.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of just throw it away, don't you? It's a couple of days. 268 miles. But earlier this year, she did a non-stop round of the Wainwrights, all 214 fells. So
the Wainwrights are tops or summits, hills in the Lake District.
214.
I mean, absolutely incredible, and that's. I mean, we've got to say. I mean, that's one of the amazing things that has come out of COVID. This enthusiasm. People not being able to race. Pretty much every mass participation event has been shut down globally, and people are finding an avenue for their energies and enthusiasm. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm definitely going to set one around my garden.
Yeah. But you must have held FKTs if you don't continue to hold them, because you've put up new routes on mountains. So, albeit not registered at fastestknowntime.com, but you have FKTs because some of the new routes you put up mountains on.
Yes, I suppose so. If you do something for the first time by sheer definition that nobody's ever done it, then
you got the FKT.
Yes, it'll be a fastest known time. It's not something which climbers perhaps specifically go out to try to break, although there are some glaring exceptions to that. And the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc, we mentioned Mont Blanc earlier, both those records are held by Kilian, the Spanish sky runner. I think Matterhorn, up and down the Matterhorn, up and down the Lion Ridge, so that's the Italian side, is sub 3 hours. I mean, unreal. And then his Mont Blanc time, which is from the centre of Chamonix to the summit of Mont Blanc and back down again, which is nearly about 3,500 metres of ascent and descent, obviously. And I forget what the horizontal distance is. That's sub 5 hours or so.
And if you were going to guide a climb up Mont Blanc,
that was 2 days. Sometimes 3 days.
Yes, I mean, it just puts it into context.
I tried to do it with a baby friend of mine, Brad, a number of years ago, and we were trying to do it in sub 24 hours, and we actually got stopped by a crevasse on the Grand Roulette route. Because these things, there's snow and ice there. It's not running a trail. It's
a proper mountain.
They're proper mountains. But I think he's lost it now. But Kilian did hold a record on Aconcagua in Argentina, because he had a project, Summits. I think it was called Summits of My Life.
Yeah, it was.
And he had a beautiful website. I don't know if it's still up there. I presume it is. And he was trying to set fastest known times on each of the 7 summits. So that's the highest point on each continent. And he did it with such humility and jovial fun, and he wanted to raise sort of awareness of the environment. It was a beautiful project. Yeah. I don't think he quite got the Everest one. He was on Everest a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it, but there's some discrepancies, I think.
Yeah, but what he did was amazing. To summit twice in a week without oxygen is incredible. And then there's a couple of Swiss climbers. Unfortunately, Uli, my good friend Uli, is no longer with us, but he did hold, or still holds, some of the fastest known times on the Matterhorn, north face of the Matterhorn, north face of the Grand Duras, north face of the Eiger, but then
again, I think it's because the time
okay,
cut off, but
it's still working.
it's still working.
Okay, a little technical hiccup.
Yeah.
This is what you get when you essentially do something live and you're using technology that you're not totally au fait with. We've got a lovely technician with us today, Guy, who featured on Cool Conversations about a month ago.
Yeah.
Something like that. He's taking care of the camera. It's a blind leading the blind. Well done, Guy, keeping the camera rolling. But yeah, Danny Arnold is another amazing technical climber, but he's been, I want to say systematically breaking Uli's records, but I forget exactly how it is, but there's a little bit of controversy on how these things are done in the mountains. And of course the danger level is elevated.
I was going to say, because I clearly don't know what I'm talking about and you're the expert, but I'm guessing fast isn't necessarily good.
No.
Or you get to a point where fast
Well,
is just
there
dangerous.
is. There's, for many years there's been a phrase, speed is your friend in the mountains. So moving quickly, it certainly has a place, but then there's a tipping point. And certainly if you watch video footage on YouTube of say Uli or Danny moving over technical terrain, there is zero margin for error. They're moving incredibly quickly. Uli's time for the Matterhorn, north face of the Eiger, I think was 2 hours 47 minutes. And I think Danny's brought that down. But that equates to 24 meters a minute on technical vertical ground. It's incredible. Uli's heart rate, I remember talking to him about it, Uli's heart rate was above 180 beats for nearly 2 hours. Now that's Olympic levels of fitness, which have then been overlain in the big mountains. Yeah, a little bit like we were saying, if you do the Bob Graham or the Ramsey round, that would be a career ambition for many amateur but good runners. Climbing the north face of the Eiger would be a life goal for many climbers, and there's Uli doing it in sub 3 hours. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, being a climber myself, I struggle to get my head around exactly how you do that.
What is it? Is it training? Obviously, that gets you to
I think it's I think it's a combination of training. Yes, you've got to be technically superbly gifted. I think you need a physiology which allows you to do that. You need years and years and years of training and experience, and then you've got to have the right mindset. These guys are essentially the Olympic athletes of the mountains, and yeah, they are setting fastest known times. We also get it on El Capitan. Many viewers, listeners probably saw Free Solo with Alex Honnold. But more than that, there's speed records on things like the nose on El Capitan, on most of the big routes there will have a fastest known time or a record on them, and they are breathtakingly fast. Breathtakingly fast. One of my climbing ambitions is I've never climbed the nose on El Capitan. I like to do it. I like to do it off the couch, on site, so with no prior knowledge. And I like to do it in a day. The speed record, I think, it might even be sub 2 hours now. I can't compute that. It's not even a 4-minute mile. I mean, that's like a 3-minute mile. That's how quick.
Straight up.
Pretty much straight up. Yeah, 28 pitches. It's 1,500 meters or something ludicrous. It's colossal of technical hard climbing, which for many people would be the pinnacle of their climbing career. And these guys are doing it sub 2 hours. It's unreal. And that is a fastest known time in the mountains, I suppose.
And like you say, in part it comes back to mindset, which actually seamlessly links on to some questions that I've got for you from your listeners.
So we put the shout out. So I've got to thank you for this, Dave.
It worked, thank the Lord.
You're our little technical wizard from your radio days. And if you didn't follow me or Dave on Instagram, we gave a little shout out a few days ago on Instagram with a link.
Yeah.
And you could write a question in there,
and it
comes through to us. And I think you picked out.
Yeah, I picked out
the 3 or 4, which I think summed up the. Well,
yeah.
You read them all, not me. I think it sort of summed up the general vibe.
Yeah, I mean, so firstly, thank you. We had lots of questions, and if Kenton will have me back again, we'll do this again every fortnight. So we will work through all of these questions. But I picked out 5 actually, because we originally said 3, but there were just so many questions. I figured we needed to go with 5 because we need to get through all of them. So I guess the first one actually is about mindset. So this is from Andrew. Andrew, I don't have your surname. By the way, if you're submitting a question, do leave us your name if you want to. You don't have to, but if you leave us your name,
give you a shout out.
I'll give you a shout out. So Andrew, don't
Thanks,
have your
Andrew.
surname, but thank you. So he says, hi Kenton, I must admit each day you give me a smile with your get it done and in it together Insta stories. Are you really so positive all the time as we see on Instagram? My question is, some days when everything goes wrong or you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, what gives you the boost to get yourself going and put that smile back on your face? Great energy, keep it up, we're in it together. Andrew.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Great question. And we are in it together, and we are getting it done together. Sorry, just to put that in. That is the tagline. And I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. I think we'll be deceiving ourselves if we think that every day is a joyous day. We're human beings. We have ups, we have downs. Some of us perhaps more than others. I'm a firm believer that, and I've said this for many, many years, that there's always light after dark. And some days I get up out of bed, I don't feel like it. I will sit in the boot room looking at my trainers, and I spent 20 minutes there in the past just looking at. I might even slip them on, and I still have to do them up. And I think on days like that, it's a case of I use visualization, both positive and negative. And what I mean by that is, well, I think perhaps take a step back. I'm internally I'm an optimistic person. I see the good in most people. I see the good in most things. I'm definitely glass half full, and I believe that we're on this planet for a short space of time, and it's our duty to ourselves to have a good time. And if you're pessimistic, you generally don't have a good time. If you're optimistic, that energy is contagious, and you're going to pull people up around you, and vice versa. I've got a beautiful family. I get up sometimes, I'm a bit in the doldrums, and the children come into the kitchen, and that's the pick-me-up. But certainly for me, I think running which is a relatively new thing for me, running has given me that energy boost, the pick-me-up. And no matter how bad I think the run's going to be, it always produces the goods. Even when it's a bad run, I come back and I may be a bit dejected because the wheels have fallen off or I've had to walk. I even virtually crawled the other day.
But you were buzzing because I spoke to you after that. You heard, the wheels had properly come off.
Yeah, I stopped by a blackberry bush and was picking blackberries off and stuffing them in my face for some energy. I just got my nutrition. Anyway. So yeah, how do I keep the positivity? No, of course I'm not like that all the time. But at the same time, I think I'm quite honest with what I post sometimes. I do post the bad times as well as the good times. But if you give your negative thoughts or that pessimistic side of you too much of a voice, then being pessimistic is as contagious as being optimistic. And you have the ability to suck energy out of others. And I think for all of us, for our mental well-being, for our, our better health. We get more by giving. So by being pessimistic, you suck it out of others without asking. And I think I've learned that the hard way. So I try to be as bubbly and as enthusiastic each and every day. And the other, I think, critical thing, Andrew, is when the day's finished, when your head hits the pillow, draw a line under it. You wake up in the morning, it's a fresh start. And any misdemeanors or bad energy or the bad day, or maybe you got your knuckles wrapped by your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your boss or whatever, that was today. Tomorrow is different. And that's the thing that we can control. We can control about how we are going to approach that with our attitude. And if you go in it with a positive attitude, chances are you're going to get positivity back. And that's the way I try to face every single day. It's not all bloody great. I'd be lying to say it was. We all have our cupboard full of skeletons and cupboard of bad days, or the wheels fall off, like you said. I mean, you must experience the same thing when you're running. Some of your races go really well, and other races, you go to Chamonix and you twist your ankle on day 2, and you get a great nickname called Injured Dave.
Exactly. What more could I possibly want? No, I think you're right, and it's not just running races, is it? Life, like you say, particularly at the moment and this year, it's easy to find yourself, your head dropping and getting yourself down. But I think it was Rich Roll that said it, but mood follows action, and if you act on something, you can change your mood. And I think
totally
what we've been talking about today, and we're big advocates for exercise and getting outside and getting it done. It does change your mood, and I think if you look at, as I do, all your stories, a lot of your stories are you post-run, and
no, absolutely,
and
but perhaps I should do it pre-run, because they wouldn't be quite so buoyant sometimes.
Yeah, but I think that's the proof, isn't it? That the action of running, getting outside, getting it done.
And it doesn't have to be running, by the way.
No,
It could be anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the really important thing that I'm always really keen to stress. I can talk about running, getting outside all day long, but that's not for everyone. Find your thing and do that.
And it could be going down the gym. It could be pounding the treadmill in the gym. It could be on the ergo. It could be on a push bike. It could be going for a walk.
Yeah.
It's what works for you. But Andrew, I mean, thanks for the question. And if you are having a dark day, just put it down to experience and draw a line under it. Don't give it too much of a voice, and then reset, recalibrate, and do it again tomorrow.
Ready for another question?
Yeah, bring it on.
All right.
I'm loving this format.
Yeah.
I hope the audience is as well.
Okay.
I hope they're not too different.
This is potentially a dangerous question.
Oh God.
What would be your top vegan recommendation for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do you cook or?
Do I cook? I'm not really well.
You don't strike me.
A guy's laughing behind the camera.
As Guy laughing and.
Okay, so I'm really lucky. Mrs. Cool is an epic cook. I do like to cook, Dave, but I am told that I make too much of a mess. I have the ability to use pretty much every pot, pan, condiment, knife, fork, spoon, serving spoon known to mankind in one go. And that's just doing soup. But I have been allowed recently to do it a little bit more cooking. Oh, whose question is this?
So I haven't got a name, so just again,
okay,
if you want to submit a question, if you want to, leave us a name so we can give you a shout out. But yeah, top.
Okay, so I should say that I'm not vegan. We are a plant-based family, and certainly with all my travels, I am a little bit flexible on my diet. But certainly during lockdown, it's been foolish to cook multiple meals, so the whole family's been plant-based. The children are out of their own accord. So I have learned quite a bit. So these will be my recommendations, I suppose. First and foremost, I generally don't eat breakfast. I'm on a time-restricted eating, or 16-8 fast diet.
Yeah.
So I normally break my fast with lunch, but once a week I do have breakfast, and for me it's normally smashed avocado on sourdough toast, maybe with some beans, and we do a scrambled tofu, which is it's unreal. It's so tasty, so tasty. And, so that will complement maybe with some cherry tomatoes just cut on the side. And then interesting actually today, Jazz, Mrs. Cool, she had porridge, but she had porridge with diced coconuts, some flaxseed on it. What else did she put on there? With some seeds and things, but made with oat milk. And she was eulogising over that because she's got into running recently, and she did a long run Sunday. I think she's still in recovery mode a little bit. But then moving on to lunch. So lunch becomes my breakfast, in a way. And by the time I get to about 12:30, I've been for my run. I've had 2 or 3 cups of black coffee and water. So now I love my food.
Yeah, you're ready to eat.
I'm ready to eat. And lunch has been, certainly during lockdown, it's been soup, a lot of homemade soups, lots of vegetables just whisked up in the Vitamix, maybe a big salad. We're a big salad family. We like tofu, sort of feta substitute, black olives, very Mediterranean style, or possibly wraps. We go through wraps quite a bit, refried beans, sort of burrito sort of style. And then dinner, my favourite, and it's become a bit of a cool household favourite, is chickpea curry. The children are all over it. With my children, for better or for worse, they're a little bit picky with their eating, which does make it a bit tricky sometimes with the plant-based diet. But yeah, chickpea curry, the rice is often mixed, it's brown rice, often mixed with quinoa, sometimes cauliflower rice. If you've not seen that, just Google it, check it out. It's super wholesome food.
And didn't you have a cauliflower steak recently?
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? So I forget where did we go? We went out for dinner somewhere, and there was no. It was the Potting Shed over in is it Cromwell?
Yeah.
Marley way.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much option. We were there for lunch with David Tate, lovely friend of mine. So both Jazz and I had a cauliflower steak. So what on earth is this? And it turns out it is essentially like a cauliflower sliced, and I'm not too sure how they cooked it, but they had a really chili fried, olive oil, heavily garliced sort of sauce based thing around it, and I naughtily ordered some fries. But it was off the charts. Oh God, it was good. I mean, I'm really blessed. Jazz is a phenomenal cook, and we experiment a lot. We just got Michael Greger's book, How Not to Die. I think it's called a fantastic book. It's not 100% plant-based, but it's predominantly plant-based recipes in there. Very wholesome recipes, all without added salts and sugars, and using minimal amounts of oil and things like that. So I have been dipping in there a little bit, but apparently I leave too much of a mess.
And I can believe that.
What do you mean you can believe that? Don't be rude, Dave. You brought me onto the show for the first time.
I know.
I mean, you are here.
Yeah, I know, but if we're going to be honest, you don't strike me as a chef. But I may be wrong.
Guy, you're not going around for dinner in the future.
So, don't know who asked that question, but really good question.
No, really good question. And there's loads, and if people are out there and they're interested in plant-based diets, Jazz does. I mean, she's done this for a couple of people. Jazz has like a 2-week menu plan.
Oh, wow.
If people want to drop us a line, then I'll be very happy to share that with people out there. Super simple recipes, really wholesome, very balanced. There's a bit of backlash to plant-based diets.
Yeah, there is.
But there's perhaps that's for another show. But certainly, all 4 of us, we're not feel as healthy and as fit as I ever have, and that's on pretty much 6 months of plant-based diet. So,
Ready for another question?
I don't know, are we?
I think so. This is from Ed Smith. So Ed says, I'm a young person inspired by the outdoors. And I have
Stay young, man, that's what I say.
Yeah.
That's going to be my answer.
Yeah, Ed, just stay young.
Yeah, don't get old. Peter Pan.
So he's a young person, he's inspired by the outdoors, and he's got big aspirations for the future. Good man. He wants to know, how did you get to where you are today? And have you any advice for me, as in Ed, and any other dreamers?
Yeah, dream. Never give up on the dream. So, and because you generally dream because you have a passion. And yeah, I'm not going to knock the education system or things like that, but I do think sometimes that school or education can drum that passion out of us. You know, we're guided down a certain path which perhaps is quite heavy on academic learning, doesn't perhaps leave enough room for creativity, whatever form that may be. We were talking about creativity in the running world earlier, pivoting from races to fastest known times. So yeah, dream big. Don't lose sight of what the dream is. And don't let others take the dream away from you. And that's something which can be done. Many years ago, I was in a hospital bed with 2 broken legs, having had a climbing accident, and the consultant came in and crushed my dreams by saying, you will never walk without a stick, you will never run again, you will certainly never climb again. And that was the impetus for me to actually get better and to prove a point. And it's kind of at that point that I realised that nobody has the authority to take away a dream from somebody else. But we see it a lot, unfortunately. People tell us we can't do something. Now, I'm not talking about illegal things or things like that. You know, we have a dream, you know, you want to run the Pennine Way or climb Mont Blanc or climb Everest or row the Atlantic or whatever it may be. You want to become an artist. That's your dream and it's yours. Cling on to that, and yeah, don't let go of that, Ed. And then the other thing is, you know, certainly if you're looking at, say, mountaineering or climbing, don't be afraid of taking small steps. I don't think anybody would expect you to climb Everest off the couch. You got to take baby steps. You got to build up to it. I look towards, you, Dave, and your running. I've never run an ultra. It'd be a nice thing to tick off one day just to see where it takes me in terms of my mental and also physical fortitude. But I don't intend to do that like that. You've got to build up to it. And it's the same with pretty much anything we do. So you've got to learn your craft. You've got to gain the experience. And the more you gain it, the more you realise that this is, or maybe isn't, for you. And that's certainly how I got into climbing. I was lucky. I went to university, and there's a cohort of people who had boundless energy and enthusiasm. And I was swept along on a tidal wave of enthusiasm. And there were some near misses. But all the time we were learning. We were honing our skills from the small cliffs, rock climbing cliffs, and then to Scotland, and then to the Alps, and then to the Himalayas. And we didn't jump in with 2 feet to start with. And we kept it fun. Because ultimately that's what we do it for. It's meant to be fun. And I think if you lose the fun element, then it becomes a little bit like work. A little bit of a drag, and as soon as it becomes a drag, you perhaps lose the enthusiasm. And when you lose the enthusiasm, you start questioning why you do it. And so it was a flippant remark. Stay young, but look at children. They have boundless enthusiasm, boundless levels of enthusiasm, and they seem to find fun in almost everything they do. So yeah, stay young, man. Nobody likes getting old. I mean,
No.
I mean, how old are you these days, Dave? I think I've got a little while.
38.
Yeah, well, there we go. I've got nearly 10 years on me. I might say older and wiser, but I think that's more cynical.
No, you're definitely wiser. I love that though. You know, your point. Just don't stop dreaming. You know, it sounds throwaway, but it's not, is it? You know, if you've got a dream, don't stop dreaming.
Yeah, to cling on to it. I mean, it's not necessarily going to happen today or tomorrow or next week or next year. But at some stage, you're going to action on it, and the first step is have the dream, have the ambition. That's your first stepping stone, and action. And, action at some point.
I think the only other thing I would add as well, Ed, is I say this from experience. There's no such thing really as an overnight success. You might look at other people, and we all have a tendency to do it these days and go, they're an overnight success. And as Kenton's just said, there's a lot of time invested in people realising their goals and becoming who they are and achieving what they do. And sometimes we don't see that period, we just see them at their pinnacle. And I think you're going to have to invest some time into whatever it is you want to achieve. But if you do that and you keep going, back to what you said right at the start, persistence, mindset, that will lead you where you're meant to go. And that, for Ed, sounds like it's going to be in the outdoors and exploring and hot on your heels, chasing you up mountains, which will keep you on your toes as well, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah. There's nothing. Well, for me at least, there's nothing like having friendly competition to keep you sharp and to keep you looking for new possibilities. And you're right about perseverance. And look at all the great names there: the Zuckerbergs, the Jobses, the whoever it may be. They weren't overnight sensations. We may think they were, but look at Steve Jobs.
He got fired.
Yeah, he got fired by his own company.
Yeah.
And Zuckerberg. I mean, these things, these big companies, these big success stories, they are not overnight. When you start looking at it, there's heartache, there's tears, there's sweat, there's blood, there's years of effort, there's failure, it's all in there. And sometimes success never comes. And that's where the cliched is the journey that's important. It's the fun along the way. So don't lose sight of that.
I've got 2 more listener questions for you. So this is from James. Hello James, thank you for your question. Hey Kenton, do you use the sauna to recover, and have there been any benefits that you found to using one? I swear by it. Keep up the great work.
I'd love to use a sauna more often. I love a sauna. It always reminds me of my father. My father he loved a sauna. There's so many benefits of a sauna. It'd be so good to have access to one. I mean, I think the benefits are pretty endless, and there's a lot of studies out there. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence as well. I always, when I do have the opportunity to have a sauna, as hot as you can stand, basically. I mean, it dilates it increases sort of blood vessel dilation, which increases blood flow, which in turn helps recovery. It helps muscle repair, it helps injury recovery, and there's lots of different ways that people talk about the way that you go in 5 minutes and come out, warm shower, then back in, or cold shower. I think to a certain extent, trying to find what works for you. It's James, James. So by the sound of it, he uses it already. So James, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can flush toxins out. Really good for your skin. It goes on and on and on. I was listening to a podcast recently. I think it was Laird Hamilton, maybe with Joe Rogan or somebody, and they were joshing over the sauna and hot. and make it as hot as you can, above 200 degrees, well, Fahrenheit, that is, not
Yeah,
that.
it's too hot. Too hot.
And go in there, and it helps cardiovascular performance. Some research has shown it increases oxygen consumption and red blood cell production, which obviously can have quite profound effects on endurance, cardiovascular fitness. And above all, it makes you feel damn good. I love a sauna, I really do. I prefer a sauna over a steam room. I think steam rooms may be quite good for skin and for toxins, but it doesn't perhaps have some of the benefits that a sauna does. So yeah, I think if you're
gone the opposite direction, have you done any of the, immersing yourself in the freezing cold water?
No, but I have one, well twice. There's those two stories. Once was in America, and it was a friend's wedding, and we stayed in this really luxury hotel in Beaver Creek. Well, I wasn't. That's where the hotel wedding party was. I managed to get a condo or apartment from a friend of mine. So, but we were using all the hotel's facilities, which were off the charts, and they had a plunge pool, and we did a workout, and then in the plunge pool. Oh my goodness, God, it was cold. And the other story was hilarious. We were in Greenland a long time ago. We were doing some new routes in Greenland. And we were playing Pass the Pigs, a little game Pass the Pigs, and I lost. And it was a forfeit, just to make it more exciting, there was a forfeit. And the forfeit was, we had an expedition barrel, which is like a chemical barrel, full of glacial water poured on top of you. And I was waiting underneath, and the guys had gone on top of a boulder and tipped this barrel over top. And because I'm all tensed up, and I put my neck out. Oh, no. And so we're in the middle of a glacier in Greenland, and for 2 days I could hardly move. Jeez. So I've always stayed away from the cold treatment, but again, there's a lot of research.
I haven't done it. Well, I've done a little bit of it. In fact, in Chamonix in the summer when I rolled my ankle, I just literally dumped myself in the river.
For sure.
For recovery in that sense. But I'm hearing more and more people talk about it, and I don't know the science behind it, but it seems that go super hot or go really cold. And
I mean, there's always, you can find articles, you can find papers. I was reading one earlier on Outside Online, which isn't a medical journal as such, but there was a kickback to the benefits of the saunas. But I think that's always going to be the case when you have, I wouldn't call it a fad, but when you have something which has generally accepted benefits, there's always going to be somebody looking at, well, actually saunas are the negative effect because X, Y, Z. But I think both are considered to be pretty good for you, especially saunas. So yeah, I mean, I love a sauna or access to a sauna, but yeah, I mean, you just can't do everything.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, keep them hot, and the heat also releases endorphins, which can help minimise pain with arthritis or injury or just sore muscles. So I think by mixing up, say, massages and saunas, I think you're pretty good. As we said, it feels good.
Yeah, and if it's not hurting anyone and it feels good, game on.
Yeah, I mean, the Scandinavians have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
It works for them.
And they get a lot right. James, thank you very much for your question. Final question from Jay Whiting. What would be your advice to your 20-year-old self?
Look after yourself.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, my diet when I was 20 was crap. It's a lot better now. My training, I didn't really train. I was just out there enjoying myself. Drunk too much. I had some wayward habits. But my nutrition was bad. And then there's a cliche, but I still don't stretch. And that's beginning to come back and haunt me.
Yeah.
I was having loads of fun. I mean, I would say have more fun, but I don't think I could really have more fun.
Yeah.
I think, I didn't have a career until I was quite a bit older, so I don't think that's an important thing. But I think the key things would be kind to yourself. And once you realise, and once you're in a good place, through being kind to yourself, then you can be kind to others, which is one of the most rewarding things I think we can do. So I think if I had the opportunity to sit down with a beer with a 20-year-old Kenton, I would say be kind to yourself and to others. I think perhaps I wasn't quite as kind as I could have been to some people along the way, and I don't think I've always been kind to myself. So yeah, nutrition, which I suppose is be kind to yourself. Yeah. I would say train more, but hey, it kind of worked.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't an Olympic athlete or anything silly like that. You know, I wasn't in national teams, or I was just enjoying myself. Stretch more. Well, maybe I should have had more saunas.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that would have worked.
Build a sauna.
Yeah, you can always say, perhaps I should have invested in property when I was a student in Leeds, when I had no money then. Yeah, I could have invested in property in Chamonix when I first went there when I was 17, but of course I had no money then. That would have, you know. But being kind to yourself doesn't cost anything. Being kind to others doesn't cost anything. So that would be my advice, Jay. Be kind.
That's beautiful. Genuinely. When we first started talking about this sort of bi-weekly cool conversations, we were just talking about all the sorts of things that we could do, including answer listeners' questions. And I think we got to a point where we decided that we wanted this to be a place and a conversation where we could just encourage people to get it done, and recognise we're all in it together. I read the script, and just try and be in a small way a kind of force for good, and just shout out and signpost people that are doing really wonderful things. And one of the things that we talked about was also little people, children, doing awesome stuff that is inspiring both to their mates but also to their parents and their family. And actually, Saffron, your daughter, is doing something this month, which we thought might be the start of hopefully something we could do on a fortnightly basis, where we talk about listeners, and if you're a child listening right now and you've got something awesome planned, and it doesn't have to be climbing a mountain or running a race, it could be anything, including getting good grades at school. We'd love to know about them, and we'll shout them out on the Cool Conversations podcast. But what's Saffron doing? Because she's doing something.
Yeah, she's trying to. Excuse me. So, but perhaps we should first go, and you came up with the name Cool Kids.
Cool Kids, yeah.
So we're in the Cool Kids part of the show. So what Saffron's doing is a little bit of a backstory. She became involved with a local charity called the Big Yellow Bus. It's in Cirencester, just up the road, and it came about because at Christmas last year at school they were asked to write down what they want for Christmas at school, and she wrote something along the lines of she wanted the homeless to have a home for Christmas. And Jazz and myself were pulled in by school to talk about this, because it's not everything which a 10-year-old writes down, which she was 9 at the time actually. And what we did, we arranged it for her, or Father Christmas arranged it for her to go and visit the Big Yellow Bus just before Christmas and sort of help out and see what it was all about, because the Big Yellow Bus is a shelter for the homeless in Cirencester. So she became involved with Jerry, who runs it. And then Jerry, during lockdown, they had to close, and then the bus got vandalised, believe it or not. Somebody broke in and graffitied it and smashed it up and threw rubbish all over the place. And it really upset Saffron. And Saffron decided, because Mummy's into it a little bit, because Daddy's into it and we run, that she was going to run 50 kilometres throughout September. And she was going to raise money for the Big Yellow Bus, which she's doing. She's on 32, 33 kilometres. So she's got another week or so to go, so she might need to put her finger out.
Big week.
Big week coming up. But she's raised over £1,500, which I think is phenomenal. And perhaps we could get her, by the time we do it again, she would have finished, hopefully. We might get her on for a couple of minutes just to tell us how it was, how it feels, how it felt. And maybe she could be an inspiration to kickstart Cool Kids.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love the way that he said, we'd love to hear from you, and we would.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from young people out there what they're doing, how they're trying to help, how they're coping with COVID, what have they done which has been a challenge for them, and how did it make them feel? It'd be a lovely, I think, thing to do, and perhaps inspire some others.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's what little Saffron's doing. It's been hard work. She hasn't enjoyed it, all of it, thus far. There's been some tears. There's been a lot of whining. But to her credit, she's been getting it done.
And good lessons. It's not always easy, is it? But
oh God, no.
Head down, keep going. You get there.
It's that perseverance. Now, perhaps we should call this the perseverance.
Maybe we should. Yeah.
It keeps coming round, doesn't it? Keeps coming round.
So we'll get Saffron on next time we do this.
Or try.
Yeah.
Let's see what her diary looks like. She does have school to do.
Yeah. But in the meantime, if you're listening and you or your child or someone you know is doing something incredible, let us know. Because we'd like to know.
It doesn't just have to be children either.
No, exactly.
But it'd be nice to hear from any children out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd also like more questions. So you can email thecoolconversations@gmail.com, which is probably the best place to email questions and just let us know about
stuff. Well, we can always put that Google link. I don't quite know what magic you had there.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, so we can get that out again. Or, of course, it is, I'm pretty active on Instagram. Yeah. You can always hit me up on Instagram with some questions. And obviously we can't answer all the questions.
No, we've got a long list of questions still to go through, but we will get through them.
Yeah, we'll filter some of the best ones out, and we try to give some sort of sensible answer.
Definitely.
Well, perhaps the sensible answer has come from you, Dave, even though you have the imposter name.
Yeah, I am the poor man's Cool.
Yeah, COU.
Yeah. It's not quite as good as your surname, but that's for another time. But yeah, thecoolconversations@gmail.com or Kenton Cool on Instagram, and yeah, we'd love to hear from you and make you part of the show next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got nothing else to say.
We did it. Well, we'll wait and see what the feedback is. But yeah. Hey.
How was it for you?
I really enjoyed it. I'm a little bit concerned about the tech. I mean, poor guy's been pressing various buttons over there. There's been various noises. So
it kind of would cut off at every half hour.
Yeah, I might have to rejig the.
So I'd have to press again. So there might be a slight.
Yeah, it'd be cool. But
okay.
The audience, let us know what you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
If there's tech issues, hey, we're learning.
Yeah, we are.
If you want tweak the format, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next week we'll be back to a guest. One or two up my sleeve,
nice.
Depending on what happens with COVID.
You going to give us any?
Well, there's been one or two I've been caught in for a little while, and COVID's been getting in the way because we had to test Saffron last week, so we had to go into isolation, and that hiccuped various things. She tested negative, by the way. So back to a guest next week, and we'll be come back to this format in a fortnight.
Yeah, so plenty of time to get your questions in, give us your feedback, and perhaps even give us the topic that we talk about as well. We've got our own ideas, but like you said, we're learning and just experimenting.
It's interactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave, thank you.
Thank you. Done.
Thank you.